What's going on, everybody? I'm Josh Hine, and this is the Pitchless Selling Podcast, the podcast where we talk about sales, business, and a little bit of personal motivation sprinkled in while we're on a mission to change people's lives personally and professionally. I am fired up today. I am so glad you're here. If you're watching this thing online, if you're listening, I'm dialed. I am so dialed in today. And this topic, today's episode, is a good one. It's a topic I love talking about. It's something that gets me fired up, and it's something I think I can have a little bit of impact on your sales calls, on your sales opportunities. This is something that you could implement immediately today after listening to this podcast, and I think it could make a big change for you. So appreciate you finding us. Glad to have you here. I am so thankful that you have joined us, or that you have found us out there somewhere. And again, hopefully this thing makes a little bit of an impact for you right away. So let's dive in. Today's topic is body language, baby. We're talking body language. So, I think this is a fun one to talk about because it's something everybody knows is important. But I've watched, thousands of salespeople, businesses, go into a business, we do a few different things on the consulting side. We do a few different things on the assessment side. And, I watch salespeople all the time, and it's amazing how many salespeople on their sales conversations or in their sales conversations are like dang statues, right? And I'm talking, I'm talking phone or online web meetings, and I'm talking in-person sales meetings as well. It's like for whatever reason, and I don't know, there's probably a level of comfort, right? Someone's got to get some confidence. Maybe I think when you're more confident, when you're more assured, when you know what you're going to say, when you're feeling really good and you're in the vibe, you're in the rhythm, you're feeling the vibes, you're probably a little bit more likely to be a little bit looser, right? Get a little bit of that moving through you. When you're a little less confident, I think you're probably a little more focused on every single word that's coming out of your mouth, or trying to listen or make sure you say the right thing, or you don't totally blow the sale. So you're probably a little more rigid. So I love talking about this because the evidence that body language is important on sales calls, on sales meetings, and in any sort of communication is the evidence is there, right? It's very obvious that body language matters in communication. So in sales specifically, though, I think that there's a big opportunity, especially for people who are not doing in-person sales. I think, just based on my experience, I have seen people who are doing in-person sales that are a little bit more animated, a little bit more expressive. They're, using the body language to improve their call or improve the conversation, I should say, kind of expressing themselves, how they feel, right? They're doing the things they're supposed to be doing. Again, generally, I see the in-person seller using body language to their advantage a little bit more. But it's still not perfect, and the people who are not doing the in-person sales conversations are ones that have a massive opportunity to leverage body language. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a story here. And this goes back to some of my earlier days selling, and I worked at a software company in tech sales, and we were selling, we were doing a lot of cold calling, okay? And it was... when I say a lot, I mean, we're doing 100, 150 cold calls every single day, right? That was just the job. And anyone who was there and knows what I'm talking about, that is not an exaggeration. In fact, we had to make 150 cold calls every single day, or we could book 6 meetings. So if we could book 6 meetings, we didn't have to make the 150 dials. So I preferred to make this. I preferred to book the 6 meetings. That was kind of my goal every day. I didn't love, having to make the 150 dials. But yeah, there were many times that we were there, 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night sometimes, and just pushing. And that was a different time. It was a real, great team. We really committed. It felt like a family. We were all really close. We were tight. We worked hard. We were pushing towards a common goal, trying to accomplish, our goals. And so that was cool. It was a really great time in my career. With that said, going back to the cold calling part of this, there were some folks who inevitably struggled, right? And I talked a little bit at the beginning of the podcast about how, when especially maybe newer people or people just less confident, they kind of get the statue look, right? It's just real. Or even look, if you're not having a great day, right? You're just not having your best day. You don't have your stuff. You're not getting with a lot of people. Maybe a gatekeeper was real rude to you. Boy, we had that. Boy, oh boy, we have had our fair share of those. But for whatever reason, some people, would just sort of lock it down, right? Just statue. And so there were a handful of people that were getting into this sort of statue mode, if you will. Or let's just say they had room for improvement on the body language front, right? And so, it was a lot of sort of blank stares, a lot of sort of negative faces. And I remember, the guy who ran the team at the time was really big on, using body language and being expressive on the phone. Even though people can't see you, they can hear those things. They can hear you smiling. They can hear your excitement, right? And while I always knew body language was important, this was something that I found, and I'll never forget this because I found very interesting that we're not talking webcam days, right? We're talking, this is just a cold call. I mean, it's literally just a phone. And I was always like, man, this is so interesting. And so, what we did was we actually had these little, for the people who were struggling with the smiling on the phone, right? Because you can hear people smiling. And I wasn't so sure I believed that. But I'd encourage you, next time you're on the phone with someone, listen to the way they're talking to you. Just listen. You can't see them. Make sure you can't see them. But next time you're just talking to someone, focus on how they sound. Listen. Do they seem happy? Do they seem sad? Do they seem upset? Right? Focus on the way you sound when you actually smile when you talk, right? You sound different. So what did we do? This was, it felt a little weird at the time, I'll be honest, but it made a big impact. So what we actually did was you got these little like, I don't know what you call them, but they're little mirrors, little round mirrors, and you could screw them onto to a desk, like to your table, to your little desk there, right? And so for the people who are struggling with this body language or were having problems with the stone face, right? He would come by and he'd screw this mirror on their desk. And so they had to sit there and watch themselves while they were on the cold call. And it was a reminder to dang smile while you're talking to people. So again, it's just, I think that was probably an example, one of those funny things you do. And again, I didn't know really that it would, I don't know. I was like, is this really going to make a difference? Is it going to help people? Turns out it did. It actually made a difference. It's one of those things that might seem like just a silly little thing, but it actually helped the people who were struggling. And at an absolute minimum, it was just that reminder where you look over and you see yourself and you're like scowling at yourself. At least screw on a fake smile while you're on the phone, right? And then when you hang up the phone, you go back and look at yourself and you're just scowling again. Angry. Stone face. And that phone, someone picks up that phone and, hey, how we doing? Right? You slap that smile back on. So it was interesting because that one little change, again, on a cold call where there is no visual at all, that one little change of having that mirror there and that reminder to, hey, smile. You need to smile, right? Made a huge difference. I mean, there was a noticeable impact, a measurable impact in success rates, booking meetings when people were smiling. And look, let me just, I don't want to take this too far and make it sound like, hey, just, screw on a huge cheesy smile, and everyone will love you. You'll book every meeting, every cold call you make will be a success. Obviously, I'm not saying that. But if we're talking about sales being a game of inches, right? Where it's just it's a game of inches. There are so many little things throughout a sales conversation, whether it's, whether it's a cold calling or prospecting, whether it's actually performing a sales presentation, right? Whatever it is, there are so many just teeny, tiny things that you can do that can have a big impact on the outcome of that opportunity or that call. And this is one of them. So when I talk about body language, a lot of people will actually, and this is now switching gears going into when people can see you, a lot of people are actually they're going to comprehend what you're saying based on two things before their brain even recognizes the words that you're saying. And this is a fact. Tone is number one, by the way. People will hear what you're saying based on your tone. They will make some decisions or thoughts, right? They're gonna make some assumptions on what you're saying based on your tone before their brain actually comprehends the words that you're saying. So tone is absolutely critical, and that's actually another topic for another day, something we're going to talk about. So hey, look forward to that one. Come find it, search it out, and see what I got to say about tone. But today, in terms of body language is another one that is going to help convey your message. Again, outside of the words you're actually saying. So if I'm just sitting here and I don't make eye contact and I'm kind of looking down, right? Looking around. You can hear my tone right now, but also my body language is bad, right? Shoulders are slumped, kind of leaned forward. For those of you who aren't watching this podcast on YouTube and you're just listening to it, you can probably guess what I look like right now. Like you can probably guess what my body language looks like just on how I sound on this podcast right now, right? So the point is, with body language, regardless, and this is one of the biggest takeaways I want you to take away from this podcast is, I don't care what type of sales you're in. I don't care if you're selling over the phone. I don't care if you're selling on, video conferencing. I don't care if you're selling in person. I want you to sell as if you are right there face to face with someone. I want you fired up. I want the shoulders back, right? Get some good breathing in. Get the shoulders back, the chest out. Have some confidence. Smile. Be happy. Be excited. Look, things could be a whole heck of a lot worse for you. You're out here, you got great body language. You show the customer that you care, that you're focused. You're focused on them. You're focused on this opportunity, and you're excited about what you have to offer, right? If you can show that, that's going to come across in the way that you talk, in the way that you communicate. All right. So the shoulders up, right? The chest out and the smile. Those are the three things I want you to work on. The first three things that I want you to do. At the very beginning of this podcast, I said there's a few things that I want you to, or that you're going to get from this podcast that you can then turn around and it will impact your sales immediately. All right. Those three things, body language wise, that's the first thing I want you to do. Okay. So shoulders back, right? Shoulders, get confident, chest up, and a smile. Confidence. Why am I telling you to do that? Well, have you ever heard of a thing called the Superman pose? Some of you may have heard of this. Some of you may not have. It's actually proven that when you stand in this Superman pose, everyone can probably envision this, again, even if you're just listening, but, hands on the hips, right? Tall, wide shoulders, chest out. You get big, right? And the hands on the hips, the Superman pose. It's actually been proven that this gives people a boost in confidence. Standing in the Superman pose boosts people's confidence. Now, in a sales opportunity, that might be a little bit weird if you're just talking to someone and, in the middle of your conversation, you just hit them with a, bang, Superman, right? So don't do that. But that's the reason I say, I do want your shoulders, get loose. You don't got to be stiff. Don't got to be stiff with it, but just get those shoulders up there and get that chest out. Have some confidence and slap a smile on. All right. If you're smiling, if you're happy, and if you're focused, if you can show people that you're excited to be there, that you're invested in the time that you're spending with them, it's not just some other, sales call, right? It's not only is it gonna make you more confident, you're gonna be on your A game, right? You're gonna be delivering. It's the best way for you to deliver the best message that you can. Right? But you're going to start instilling confidence in them. Now, all of a sudden, they're like, whoa, okay, this person's fired up. This person believes. Now, it's a fine line here, because this is one thing we do have to watch. And then we go into depth. We go in depth with this in the Pitchless Selling program. Actually, the Pitchless Selling level 1 and level 2 programs, we talk a lot about body language and tone. And this is one of the things that we go in depth on. I'm just giving you some little sprinkles. The podcast is great because, I can't help but throughout some of these podcast episodes, I sprinkle in a little bit of the info from our training sessions and our training programs. But obviously we can't put it all, the whole program's out on the podcast. And, if this is stuff that, interests you and you want to improve your sales skills and your sales success rates without having to put in a whole bunch more effort, just work on your skills, get a little bit better at what you do. Well, I would highly recommend you jump on and go through a level 1, Pitchless Selling level 1, and then Pitchless Selling level 2. There's a lot of really good stuff in there. So back to what I was talking about with the, what we get into in the program. There's a fine line between coming across as confident and coming across as cocky or arrogant. And so one of the biggest things that there's been a ton of surveys about this, and you can look at this up online. There's a ton of surveys about what do people least like in their interactions with salespeople, or what things bother them about their interaction with the salesperson, or what led to them making a buying decision versus not buying, those types of questions, right? So there's a lot of surveys out there about this stuff. And so and this probably won't come as a surprise to you, but one of the things that people hate the most, obviously, is they feel this air of cockiness, of arrogance from the salesperson. And so I am a massive, massive fan on impacting people's lives in a positive way, trying to brighten their day, right? People laugh at me all the time when they're riding in the truck with me, or we're out in public, and look, I'll smile and wave at people. I like to say hi to people. I like to ask people how their day is going. I think it's important, right? People think I'm weird, but I mean, heck, I probably am a little weird. That's all right. It's all right with me. So I hope though that, look, maybe one of those people is having I don't hope they're having a horrible day, but if they are, I hope that, look, maybe some weird guy in the grocery store who smiled and waved at him, maybe it turned their day around a little bit. Maybe it made them happy. Maybe it made an impact for them, right? The same thing is true on a sales call, but you have to be genuine. And again, this is whether people can see you or not. So when we talk about body language, again, you see me talking on the podcast with my hands and stuff like that a lot, right? I think there's something to be said with the general effect of motion creates emotion. Let me say it again. Motion creates emotion, right? So when you're moving, not in a distracting way, you don't want it to be over the top and just, whoa, hey, flopping around and doing all sorts of, doing all sorts of bobbing around. But a little bit of motion, especially when you're trying to deliver points, right? And again, whether they can see you or not. So for those of you who are just listening to this podcast, if you can't see me right now, you can probably tell just based on the way I sound, but also I'm doing specific things with my body that have an impact on me. So when I do those things with my hands, or when I do those things with my posture, right? Or when I'm smiling, it has an impact on me. It has an impact on how I sound. And so again, you have to be careful with the cockiness and arrogance thing. You don't want to be arrogant. You don't want to come across as this like over-eager salesperson. That's like one of the most common sales industry challenges, right? Is that, people are coming across, oh no, it's another sounding like a salesman. I'm out of here. I don't want to give them time. I don't want to listen to them. That's too much, right? But you can be confident and you can be positive. You can do it in a way that doesn't come across as arrogant or cocky or pushy or any of those things. So work with that. play with that a little bit. I want you to work with this in public. I want you to do it with friends, with family. If you're in public and have an opportunity, I want you to start practicing some of this stuff. Okay? Practice body language. Look in the mirror, right? Or just do maybe while you're driving or while you're, standing in line for a cup of coffee or something. Practice changing your body, your body. Feel where you're at, right? Get a little bit of that confidence in you. Practice smiling when you talk. It makes a difference. And it'll have an impact. The body language won't just have an impact on your communication with that prospect, but it has an impact with how you actually sound. So not only are they perceiving what you're saying in a specific way because of your body language, but you're actually able to better communicate whatever it is, whatever point it is you're trying to get across. You're going to better communicate that by using body language. You're going to force yourself to sound a certain way or to talk a certain way just by changing your body language. And so that goes back to the whole purpose of the story at the beginning of this when I talked about those silly little mirrors, right? The mirrors were put up on people's desk to remind them to smile while they were on a cold call. Cold calling is a grind. 150 cold calls a day is definitely a grind. It's easy to get lost in the dialing, right? And you probably have heard the term smiling and dialing. Well, it's hard to keep that smile going. The interesting thing, it wasn't about, and this is what I realized, is it wasn't about just forcing people to smile so they sounded happier. What happened was they were smiling and they were actually changing the way that they were sounding, the way that they were talking. Their energy was better. They sounded more excited. And you know what? That is what led to people, especially on cold calls, okay? Especially on cold calls. If you can get people excited, if you can get them happy, if you can get them thinking, boy, this person really is passionate about this. That person really is excited about this. That goes a long ways. So hopefully I know you've already heard this. I'm not the first person to tell you how important body language is, especially in sales conversations, sales opportunities, all those things. But I want you to know, regardless of how you're selling, whether they can see you or not, your body language means a lot. It is tremendous. So if you're going to take something away from this podcast today, take away the fact that you need to remember body language drives your communication. Body language is the driver of how you sound, how you act, how you talk. Don't forget to screw on a smile, get those shoulders up, and get that chest out. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoy talking about it. This is like I said at the beginning, it's a topic I really enjoy, and it's something obviously I think is very important. So with that said, as usual, my one ask of you is if you can think of anybody, just one person, don't have to be a whole bunch of people, but just take 30 seconds for me. If you can think of one person you think might benefit from today's podcast episode or today's message, it would really help me, help us if you could share this podcast with just one person, one other person, and that'll help us on our mission to change people's lives personally and professionally. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing today's episode. So that's it for today, and I hope to see you on the next one. Until then, happy selling.